So come into a comfortable started shape. Any seated shape, you can do a little Sukhasana. You can find legs extended in Dandasana. You can sit on the shins if that's more comfortable. Take a moment, adjust all your clothing, get the hair out of your face, whatever you need to do. Get the wiggles out. And then let the center of the palm rest against the kneecaps. Maybe take a couple of rolls around with the shoulder. If it's comfortable, close the eyes. And then start class here with just this awareness of how the body is feeling. Let go of trying to explain any stiffness or aches and pains, and just be aware of that. Notice and feel. And then recognize the way the body might start to settle down into the support of the ground. You might feel a heaviness through the legs. You might feel a warmth, the center of the palms, or a warmth on the knees. Notice what happens when we sit still. Does the breath start to slow down? Does the heartbeat become more steady and smooth? Notice if the opposite happens. Maybe the stillness makes you nervous and you start to speed up the breath. And then gather the palms together. We're going to go ahead and rub the hands together. Create a little bit of friction, generate a little bit of heat there. And then invite those heated palms just to rest over the eyes, softly cupping. Notice the warmth as it radiates around the eyes, the temple, the cheeks. And then rub those hands vigorously together again. Create a little bit more warmth. This time the hands are going to wash the face as if they were a washcloth. Just bathe the forehead, the cheeks, the jaw, even the neck with that warmth. And then rest the hands comfortably. They can be palm down or palm up, your choice. We're going to bring our gaze directly in front of us. And you can keep your eyes closed or open. We're going to imagine looking straight up to the ceiling without moving the face. And then circle the eyes to one side again without moving the face. Circle the eyes down to the other side, up to the ceiling. Let's do that again. Methodically moving side, down, side, up. And then take a smooth circle. Let that rotation be without pauses all the way around. And then reverse the direction. Side, down, side, up. That third round is going to be smooth and steady. Perfect. Lift the chin up. Bring the gaze slightly up, feel a gentle stretch through the neck, and then tuck the chin down toward the chest. 2 more times, perhaps connecting to breath. I like to inhale as I lift and exhale as I draw back toward the body. With the chin dip down to the chest, let it slide across the collarbone toward one shoulder. And then down, tracing the collarbone all the way over to the other shoulder. Just like that. 2 more times. Be aware of how your breath moves as the body moves. When you finish that gentle little smiley face motion, slide the gaze forward and up, just looking directly in front of you. Take the arms and extend them out in front of you. I'm going to put my hands up as if I'm saying stop with my hands. I want to think about drawing the shoulders back rather than pushing them forward. Draw them back. Reach the entire hand up toward the ceiling as much as you can. And then let fingers drip down toward the ground as much as you can. Lifting up. Now, as we move through this, keep the fingers as an extension of the palm. I tend to bend my fingers way more than my wrist moves. Next time they come upright, circle them in, make a little fist, and then find rotations through your wrists. We'll take about 3 circles in each direction. Perfect. Come back through center. I'm going to keep my right arm extended. My left hand is going to come and just hold the right arm. Flip the palm up to the sky. Now this left hand, this extra support, not necessary, but my shoulders get tired. So I'm going to keep my hand here, but you can always challenge yourself by removing that support. Slide the fingers to touch. And then bend the elbow and reach back to the shoulder. Extend the elbow, lengthen out nice and long. 2 more, just like that. As you finish this third one, switch sides. Again, with support or without, bending through the elbows and extending. As the arm extends, stretch out both arms. We're going to do one together. Bend the elbows, find somewhere on the tops of the shoulders, and then think about your elbows in front of you. Maybe even look at them. Can you draw them together? Can you slide them down to the chest and out and around, maybe even up? So really full circles here. Before we switch sides, let's see if we can make the circle even bigger. Can you slide the elbow down and slightly behind you? Then lift them up and around. Your fingers are going to have to move a little bit and wiggle a little bit on the shoulders. Notice if the ribs flare out when you do this. As elbows come forward, we'll reverse the direction. Let's take the full circle, reach it up, reach it back behind you as much as you can, then down toward the waist and back and front. Try to keep the ribs knit in. That's really hard for me. Hopefully y'all are having a little bit more luck with that. As they come forward, we're going to find just those circles here on the front side of the body. I always think of a chicken wing. It's a chicken wing motion, right? And then release the hands down. Plant that right hand alongside the body. Lift the left arm up. Pause here. Lengthen. Extend as high as you can. And then add a little side bend. Inhale back through center. Exhale, side bend. Perfect. Connie, you look great today. I love it. I'm going to take one more side bend, same side. This time I want you to think about the ribs and the chest. Can you roll the ribs down toward the ground any amount and then roll the ribs up to the sky? Just a little twisting motion in our side bend. Notice how that affects the body. I'm going to take one more of those twists. Then come back through center, lift both arms, let the left arm come down, side bends again. I like to exhale as I bend and inhale as I lengthen. Using my lungs to kind of create that movement. And then linger in the side, then let 3 little twists, roll the rib cage one direction, and then roll the rib cage the other direction. You can come back up and gather more breath. I'm going to just stay in the side bend and let the twist occur. As we come back through center, release the arms. If you're sitting crisscross or Sukhasana, would you switch out the legs, put the opposite one in front? And then add some Sukhi swirls here. Let the hands rest on the lap, roll the torso around. Make it really big here. Get everything involved. We'll take 3 in each direction. And then the next time the body shifts forward, hinge the belly over the legs, bring the hands down to the ground for support, add a little fold. You might fold just a teeny tiny bit. You might fold all the way to the ground. Does not matter. I want you to press the hands into the ground and press the bum into the ground. See if you can find length through that low back. Take 2 more rounds of breath in your forward fold. And then coming up ever so gently, hands walk toward the body, torso lifts. You can use your hands for support. We'll all extend the legs out in front of us. I like a little space between my legs here. Doesn't have to be much, but that's another optional thing. If you want to work on core stability, try no hands. If you want a little extra support, slide the hands behind you, put about 40% of the weight into it, your choice, and you can always fluctuate between the 2. Look at the toes and bend the toes, curl them in, extend them out. Find space between the toes as we do this. I always think this is so much easier in the summertime because we're wearing our chanclas, but in the wintertime with the shoes all nice and tight, I'm taking a 4th one, just feels good. And then add a pointing of the toe and a flexing of the toes. So toes go away, toes come towards you. And then moving into circles, roll the ankles. 3 of those in each direction. Come back through center, lengthen up through the spine again. We'll interlace our fingers behind one leg. I'm going to start with the right. I like to lean back a little bit so that my balance is stable. Lift and hover that right foot from the ground and then extend. Bend and extend. And then just pause for a moment. The knee joint is a hinge. It opens and closes, but there is a little side to side movement. So explore here. Can you make some circles starting at the knee joint? Now I know for me, my hip tries to get involved. So I'm holding on to my thigh, not trying to let it wiggle. My ankle gets involved. So I got to keep my eyes right there on the knee. We're going to place that ankle across the other leg. Let the ankle dangle off so there's space there. Take your 5 fingers and interweave your fingers between the toes. If that freaks you out or you have socks on, don't do it. No worries. Everything in class is optional. And then I'm just going to hold that interweaving and take my right hand against the right knee. That's the bit knee. Pop it down and then let it kind of rebound back up. A gentle press down and a rebound back up. And the knee becomes stable and we're going to crank the ankle. That's actually what it's called, ankle crank. So we're using our hand to kind of help circle that ankle. If your fingers are interweaved, press the fingers against the ball of the foot. As you finish those, let the fingers release. Do you feel those sensations, those vibrations? That's all tingling for me. Let's extend that leg out and move to the other side. Starting with finding the balance, finding the length in the spine, and then extending the leg. Moving into those ovals, 3 in each direction. They're amazing. Coming into that seated figure 4, interweaving the fingers in between the toes. I got to readjust and pull and lengthen through the toes. Find that slight little pressure at the fingertips and then press the knee down and let it rebound up. And then cranking the ankles, circling that floating ankle. One more little squeeze between the toes, and then a release. Moment to observe the sensation. Then extend the legs out, give them a nice little shake there. I'm throwing in this little extra strengthening. This one's for Nancy. I'm going to reach for one of my blocks. Just one of them. I'm going to slide it on the outside of my leg. What I want to think about is engaging the thigh muscle. I like to lean back for this. It gives me a little extra support, but again, hands are optional. And I also like to point the toe. That helps me engage the front side of the leg. We're just going to hop that entire leg over the block. Come back. 3 of those. So what we're doing there is strengthening the thigh muscle, which gives us more support in the knee. Nancy's throwing in a 4th one. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the other side. Engaging through the leg, lifting, floating over. Now the lowest level of your block is just one height. You can always go to the 2nd. You can always go to the 3rd. I'm going to add a 4th little float over. Inspired by Nancy, and then shake it all out. If you've got something underneath your bum, a blanket or a support, slide it out of the way and just bend the knees. We're going to move into a variation of boat pose. This one I always smile and have fun with. I like to call it octopus. It's not my invention. I got it from Linda Spackman. I want to lean back and balance on the tailbone, lengthen up through the spine, take the arms out wide. And then imagine an octopus has 8 limbs and we only have 4. So as we start to lift one foot and then the other, can you wiggle all of your limbs around as if you were an octopus? Oh, yeah. There's no uniform in this and this. You can shift back down, rock back up, explore. You can't help but smile, right? You're like, oh, I'm a little kid playing around. And then eventually come on back. Take the legs wide this time. Lengthen up through the spine. You can add that little blanket underneath the bum if you'd like. I don't remember the name of this one, but it reminds me of churning butter. So we're going to keep our legs nice and stable, heavy to the ground. I even like to press the hamstrings and the heels down. And then imagine I'm churning a giant tub or barrel of butter. I'm going to take my arms around and come back in. Take 3 little churns in both directions. When I taught pre-K, we used to do the little shakers with the marbles and the jars. Make our own butter. Support the legs as we bend. Coming into Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together. For today, I'm going to have you draw those heels in as close as you can. Sometimes it's the feet that move. Sometimes it's the hips that shift forward. Let the hands find support, whether it be mat or floor or hands like on the ankles or the shins. Take a couple of breaths just right here. Imagine the pelvis, the inner groin, just softening and becoming heavy. If you hinged at all, lift back up and then flutter the knees. Flutter them as fast as you can. And then flutter them as slow as you can. Notice the difference in the range of motion there at the hips. Let the legs become heavy to the ground. Invite a forward fold over the legs. We're going to add side bend here. We're going to walk the hands over to one side. Send the opposite bum cheek down. Walk the hands through center. Torso follows all the way to the other side. Opposite bum cheek comes down. And then release. Make your way all the way up. Lift the knees. Now Nancy and I are going to turn around and put our heads on the top of the mat so our bum isn't in the video. We're all going to make our way down to the ground. Lower the back all the way down. Let's start with bended knee here. So knees are to the sky, feet are to the floor. I'm going to take my hands and just rest them on the top of my pelvis. You might find that little bony part. Your hands might rest on the belly. Take a couple of pelvic tilts. Curling tailbone up, rolling tailbone down. Perfect. And then pause. A neutral space. So the pelvis feels, the back of the hips feels supported against the mat. And there might be a little curve, a little lift of your low back. We're going to hug the right knee into the chest. Now I want you to press that low back to the ground. And then kind of let the leg lift a little bit and the curve in the back find space again. So a little pulsing motion and half Pawanmuktasana. Extend that leg all the way up to the ceiling. Draw it in. See if you can interlace your hands around the thigh. Now, as we work through hip rotation, the left leg, the other leg can stay bent, or you can stretch it long on the mat. It's not a benefit one way or the other. Get a little added, little hip movement, hip flexor stretch if you straighten the leg, but I want your spine to be comfortable. Press the floating leg into the hands, straighten the arms. So there's this sensation of the hands are drawing the leg back in place, but the leg is heavy against the hands. Flex that floating foot. And then explore what it would feel like to spread between the right toes. Maybe even draw just the toes toward the face. And then soften that. Release the hands. We'll take the hands out to the side, off of the mat, palms down. Your arms here are acting as stabilizers for the spine. So as we move through the hip, try not to wiggle the spine. If you need a little bit more help with that, you press harder with the arms and the hands. Make little tiny circles here on the ceiling. That floating leg. Now start to make those circles bigger. Again, remember the goal here is spine stabilization. Make those circles as big as you can. You can always explore how it feels to point or to flex. And then change the direction. I'm going to start with those really big circles, moving in the opposite direction. And then medium-sized circles. Those are always the hardest for me. And then those teeny tiny circles. Perfect. Hug the knee into the chest, soften through the arms. And then set that foot onto the mat. Hug the left knee in. Take a couple of breaths here, just exploring how that hip socket feels today. And as you make that decision, whether your right leg is straight or bent, base that on how your back feels. And then extend the right leg up, interlace the fingers behind. This time I'm going to purposely slide my hands closer to the hips as low as I can go. Press the leg into the hands, but resist, flex through the foot. Take a couple of breaths. It's almost like we're sliding that femur bone back into the socket. I don't think we can actually do that, but that's the feeling I get. That's the energy I get from that. And then release the hands, take them out against the mat, palms down. Again, stabilizing through the spine. Find little circles with your toes on the ceiling. And then make those circles medium size. Make those circles as large as you can. Spine is stable. Switching the direction, starting with those large circles. Moving into the medium-sized circle. Y'all, that gets me every time. I got to press my foot against the mat. And then teeny tiny circles. And then release. Hug the knee in. Set it down to the ground. Let's heel toe the feet, outer edges of the mat. So the pinkies are going to the long edges of the mat. Knees come together. Take several moments just to find stillness, smoothness in the breath. I learned this week that a majority of people, like 94% of people, have an easier time getting into external rotation where the knees go wide. And there's that little tiny percent, that's 6 or less, that like their knees going in toward one another, internal rotation. Pigeon toe people like the internal, that's a good one. We'll separate the knees, but keep the feet as wide apart as comfortable. I'm going to work with one knee at a time. I'm going to dip that knee in toward the opposite ankle and lift back up. As I move through this, I'm actually rotating my palms to the ground, coming back to that idea of stabilizing the spine.
So both hips should stay down.
Both hips are staying down. So it doesn't matter if the knee comes anywhere near that ankle. It's just moving in that direction. When both knees come back up to the sky, move to a supine twist. Both knees are coming down to the same side. Take a couple of breaths there. This is an example of the body asymmetrical. Your top leg is internally rotating, your bottom leg is externally rotating. And then a super subtle move, explore it if you want, or just stay in stillness. I'm going to focus on that top knee, and I'm going to think about reaching it toward the top corner of the mat. My bum kind of lifts a little bit, and then I'll press the bum back down. So it's a rocking motion with the top leg stretching through that hip flexor. Those instructions clear? Looks like you're doing a great job. Okay. As the bum comes back down to the mat, float the knees up and pause. You might feel a residual stress through the outer waist. You might feel it somewhere totally different. So just notice, check in. Where do you feel that? And then it's really common for the feet to kind of scoot toward each other again. I want you to widen the feet, separate the knees. Opposite knee dips down to the opposite ankle and lifts back up. We want to keep our hips against the ground. There's a nice stretch through the outer bum cheek. This time, take both knees down to the side. Couple of breaths, just softening. And then if you like that hip stretch for the top leg, send the top knee away from the body. Lift that top bum and then press the top bum down, knee floats up. You might feel a little bit of rocking in the other leg. That is common, very normal. Take another breath, just in softness. Let go of the efforts. As you inhale, knees float up to the sky. Let's bring our feet in line with the hip stays. There's a good space between my heels and my bum. I kind of have good body awareness, so I'm thinking it's about a handprint, but I don't know for certain. It's just a comfortable distance. Feet are on the floor, knees are to the sky. Take your hands alongside the body and just let them rest on the mat by the hips, palms down. Think about pressing into the feet. From that support, float the head and maybe even the tops of the shoulders up off the mat. So you're kind of curling up and then lower back down. The hands are going to slide toward the feet as you lift up, and they're going to slide toward the hips as you lower down. One more, just lifting and lowering. And then if you please, lift again, hover the hands. We're going to reach one hand. I'm taking my left hand, reaching it to my left foot. I'm taking a little side bend, and then come back through center. Reach through the other side, kind of rocking the body side to side, keeping the abdomen engaged, keeping the head lifted. Try to let the neck be soft. That's my hard spot. Take one more, both sides. As you come back through center, release. Flutter the knees open, soles of the feet together. If it's accessible, take the arms, stack the hands one on top of the other, bent elbows, and then just rest the hand past the head. It might touch the mat. If it's hovering, just avoid this. If it's resting against the mat, you're able to find a bit of softness. If the mind's like, no, I want my hands overhead, but they hover, slide a block underneath them. Take several steady breaths just right here. Not doing anything, just being here. Check in with the thoughts. Do they speed up when you find stillness? Can you focus on the breath if that happens? Noticing the inhale, noticing the exhale. Bring awareness to the fingers, wiggle the fingers, take those hands alongside the body, help lift the knees back up to the sky. This time the arms are going to reach back behind us. We're going to lengthen through the arms. They can be hovering higher than the head. They can be in line with the ears, whatever's accessible. We're going to think about the arms being connected to the spine. Can you press into your feet and curl the head, the shoulders, and the arms at the same time? Up and then lower back down. So just like before, those teeny tiny crunches, but we've changed the position of the arms, adding more load to the exercise. Moving into the side bend. So you lift and then you reach one arm and then you come back through center, reach the other. Shifting side to side. Little bonus, you get a little massage across the shoulder blades. Last one, each side. Come back through center, lower everything down. Hug the knees into the chest. You can add a little wiggle, a side to side motion, or circling of the knees if that calls to you. You're going to scissor kick the legs. Right leg extends to the sky, left foot to the floor or nice and long, your choice. Now check in with the low back. As we move through leg lifts, a lot of times it feels good to slide your hands underneath your hips as a little support. I like thinking about a triangle space in between the forefinger, the pointer finger, and the thumb, and just pushing it and sliding it under. If you get there and the hands hurt or you don't like that position, it's always optional, just a variation. We're going to lift and lower that right leg. Stretch it out away from you. Reach it up to the sky. Think about going slowly, controlling the motion with your muscles rather than using momentum. The next time your right leg comes down, let's switch. Left leg, taking any variation, hands, no hands, bent, straight legs, doesn't matter. Focusing here on the control of the motion. And then take a moment to rest. We're going to repeat that set. 3 with the right, 3 with the left. If you're feeling a little feisty today, maybe you join me. I'm going to take both legs at the same time. Lowering and lifting with control. Ooh. I'll take a little rest at the bottom. If you're on your hands, bend those knees, place the feet on the floor, shake the hands out. Let's extend both legs up to the ceiling. I'm going to take my arms out to the side, palms down for support, but you can always come back into that triangle shape. You're going to think about moving from this both legs up to the ceiling, opening to a wide V shape. Squeezing the inner legs together as they lift again. Opening wide, squeeze. These little tiny muscles we're developing in the outer hips. Let's take one more. Keeps us balanced. Hug the knees into the chest. Again, give yourself relief. Do you want to roll side to side? Do you want to find stillness? Perfect. We'll meet again with legs extended. You can use this exercise one leg at a time or both legs, your choice. We're going to think about stabilizing through the spine, pressing the low back down to the ground. That helps to engage that awareness of our abdomen. Both legs are going over to the right or just one. Both legs are coming up to center. Both legs to the right or left, your choice. I couldn't think there. It's a little bit more active. I'm rocking side to side, but you can do 3 on one side, 3 on the other.
Now, if you're using just one leg at a time, us double leggers are going to take an extra one just so that we match your speed. Oh, control is hard here. Zoomers, we're all grunting. Hug those knees and let's take them wide and kind of rock side to side. Place the left foot on the ground and find half happy baby. Right knee comes out to the side. I want you to use your right hand to pull the knee down, even lift that left bum cheek, and then just kind of rock the left bum cheek. Lift the knee. So again, that rocking horse motion. Adding on to that rocking horse motion. So from half happy baby, switch hands. Hold the right shin with your left leg. Swing that left leg or that right leg across the body into a supine twist. I'm going to keep the knees bent here. We're just rocking through a half happy baby into a supine twist with bent knees. Take one more like that. When you come back through center, switch out the legs. Gather that left knee into the rib cage. Take it wide toward the underarm pit. Use the left hand to pull that left knee down. And then let the left knee float up. A little twisting motion, diagonally stretching. Your connective tissue wraps across the front of the body diagonally. So that's what we're tapping into here. As the knee comes down, switch hands. Hold the left shin with your right hand and then swing it across the body into supine twist. Woo! Moving between half happy baby, rocking into supine twist. It's our last one. As you finish up, come back through the center. Hug the knees into the chest. And then meet again, both feet on the floor, knees to the sky. This is a funky little stretch. We're going to get deep into the hip flexors. I'm going to keep my left leg exactly where it is, but my right foot, I'm going to think about threading it underneath the left knee. It's coming across toward my left bum cheek. I'm going to take my left hand and reach for that foot. Draw it in close to the bum cheek. What I'm hoping you're feeling here is activation deep on that right side. If you're not, if there's anybody like that, press the knee toward the ground. If you are, back out a little bit. You don't have to hold on to the foot. There's lots of variations. You want to go to that point where you feel it and there's not any complaining in the knee. And then release. Unthread the right foot. Bring it back to the floor. Let's take a full body stretch before we go to the other side. So stretch the arms, stretch the legs. And then once more, bend the knees. Right leg stays where it is. Left foot threads underneath toward the right bum. You can reach around. You can press the knee down to the ground. You can keep it floating. Take the variation that works for you. We're tapping into that stretch through the front of the hip. It's actually the psoas muscle, but we tend to feel it really deep. See if you can find a bit of ease, a bit of stillness in there. And then release. Add that full body stretch. Legs extend, arms extend. You might even reach side to side. Hey, once more, feet on the floor. Knees to the sky. We're going to play around with some flowing bridges. We're going to change up the position of our feet. So to start with, what I'd like you to do is point your toes away from one another. I like to widen my legs there. And then let the hands come alongside the body. And I like palms down, but that again, that's an option. We're just going to press into the feet and lift the hips. Super simple flowing bridges. As you exhale, you lower the bum down. We see this shape in a lot of different classes. We're exploring different positions in the feet, figuring out what works best for our body. The next time the bum comes down, lift the toes, pivot them in. Here's that pigeon toe. Woo! Toes in, heels out, 3 flowing bridges. If you encounter one of the variations and there's pinching or screaming, don't do it. Plain and simple. If you find that one that there's like ease, like, oh, use that as an observation. Bum comes back down. This time we're going to hug those heels in as close to the bum as we can. Maybe even squeeze the inner legs in together. So maybe the knees touch, maybe the toes, that big toe touches. 3 flowing bridges, lifting and lowering. Begin to notice which one feels the most comfortable for your body. As the bum comes back down, you choose what variation you want for the next set of 3. Toes in, toes out, legs wide, legs together. Just flow with your breath. Let's all take one more. This one we're going to hold here. I want to press the feet into the ground, lengthen the knees toward the toes, squeeze the glutes. Breathe in the hold. 2 more breaths. I always find it interesting. This is camel pose. Oh, it's not as painful for my body, which I think is sweet. Lower the hips back down. Hug the knees into the chest. This time, hold behind the legs and just wiggle out the knees. Wiggle out the ankles and the toes. Make it jiggle. Watch it wiggle, see it jiggle. And then release. Nancy got that reference, right? You knew it was Jello. Take a soft figure 4 here. Hook the right ankle over the left thigh. Maybe you take your arms out wide this time as you flutter that floating knee a couple of times. As we move into our final supine twist, I'm going to keep my legs connected just like this. Some of you might prefer to move into an eagle leg or a sitting pretty cross-legged pose, or even just stack the legs. We'll invite the legs to roll to the left, whatever variation you took. Notice the bum cheek. Can you let that right bum become heavy to the ground? You're lengthening the leg a bit. And then lift that right bum cheek and notice where the twist along the spine shifts. You can explore a little bit and eventually settle into stillness, breathing through the twist. Two more breaths right here, right now. Unravel from the twist. If you're not in figure 4, come back to figure 4. Right ankle flipped over left. We're going to reach our hands for that right leg and start to drag it closer to your chest. You're lifting it, you're floating it. Let's rock that leg. I call it rocking the baby or cradle rock. You can hold on with your hands. You can hook your elbows, just a little rocking side to side. And think about that softness, that nurturing. If you were rocking a baby, you wouldn't shake too hard. You would go nice and slow and soothing. Maybe add some circles here. The femur bone is stirring inside that hip socket. Take those 3 circles in the opposite direction. If you've got a shorter arm skeleton, you can always do it without hands. Don't let that stress you out. Slide the right foot back to the ground. Left leg's turn. Lift it, hook the ankle over the right leg. Take a couple of little flutters here. And then as you're ready, move into the supine twist. Legs are going to the right. Any variation that you pick is perfect. We're going to focus on that left bum cheek. Float it from the ground. Place it to the ground, toward the ground. Notice how that simple movement shifts the twist within the body. Find the space that works best for you. Where do you need this stretch? And then settle in. Several lingering breaths. As you're ready to release, we unravel. We all make our way back into that figure 4, moving into rocking the baby. Reach for the left leg. Sway it side to side. Find the circles. Taking those circles in both directions. Right now, the leg's in external rotation. We're going to add one more movement. Hug the knee into the chest. And then kick the foot out to the side. So that internal rotation. I'm just going to reach across the body with my right hand to hold on to the knee. I'm going to try to keep my leg in internal rotation. If this is complicated, let it go. Can you find those circles in internal rotation? Whew. Pigeon-toed legs. Yeah, we're all like, I don't think so, Catherine. This is a little too weird. When you're done with that exploration, let it go. If you feel lopsided, you want to try it on the other side. Hug that left knee in. Knee comes in, foot comes out any amount. I'm going to find those circles. One leg is definitely easier than the other leg for me, but I am straining. Oh, it is hard on the psoas. Let it all go. Make your way into Shavasana. You've got a little blanket there if you want to slide it under the head, blocks if you want them under the legs. You might hear the pitter patter of my feet as I turn overhead, lights off. Make yourself comfortable. Settle in.
As you settle in, notice the way the breath flows. There's an invitation to stretch the breath out of it. Not in a way that stresses the body out, but rather one that brings in a bit more ease. Ease of the breath is inviting us to surrender into this space between effort and ease, between alert and asleep. This space in between. That space of just being here. Connect again to the breath. Noticing the inhale, inviting the inhale to expand, to grow throughout you. Adding a little bit of wiggle to the fingers, to the toes. An awakening, coming back to the senses. Let's slide our palms together and generate that heat again. Rubbing them vigorously, allowing that warmth to just kind of wash any remaining stress away from the face. And then come up any way you'd like. We'll meet one another in a seated shape, taking all the time needed to move, to adjust, to lift. Right, maybe a few little shifts through the necks, rolls through the shoulders. And then we'll gather the arms, circle them up and overhead. If you'd like to join me, slide those palms together, rest the thumbs at the heart, soft tuck of the chin. This gesture, this moment for gratitude. Grateful for the movement we have, for the space to explore without judgment, without frustration. Just recognizing the beauty in that movement, the life in the breath. From my heart to each of yours, namaste. Namaste.
Thank you so much.